Most people believe overthinking is a sign of intelligence, but the truth is, it is often a prison built by our own minds. We replay the past, fear the future, and lose the only moment we truly have, the present. Every great opportunity, every meaningful relationship, and every peaceful night can be stolen by thoughts that never become reality. The question is not whether you think too much. The real question is, who is in control, or your mind? Today, I will share 5 powerful ways to destroy overthinking forever and help you regain clarity, confidence, and inner peace. One of the biggest reasons people become trapped in overthinking is that they forget a simple truth. A thought is not a fact. The mind produces thousands of thoughts every single day. Some are useful, some are creative, and many are simply automatic reactions based on fear, past experiences, or imagination. Yet most people never question these thoughts. They immediately believe them. The moment a negative idea appears, they treat it as reality. They start building stories around it, predicting outcomes that have not happened, and creating problems that do not even exist. Imagine standing beside a road and watching cars pass by. You don't chase every car. You don't jump into every vehicle that appears. You simply observe them. Thoughts work in the same way. They come, they stay for a moment, and they leave if you allow them to. The problem begins when you climb into every passing thought and let it determine where your emotions go. A single fearful idea becomes 10 more. Those 10 become 100. Soon your entire day is controlled by something that was only a brief mental event. Learning to observe your thoughts changes this pattern completely. Instead of reacting immediately, you create a small space between the thought and your response. In that space, you regain the ability to choose. Rather than saying, "This will definitely go wrong," you notice yourself thinking, "I am having the thought that this might go wrong." That small difference is powerful because it reminds you that you are the observer of your mind, not its prisoner. Many people spend hours arguing with their thoughts. They try to force them away, suppress them, or replace every negative thought with a positive one. Ironically, this often makes the thoughts even stronger. The mind tends to resist force. The harder you push something away, the more attention you give it. Observation works differently. Instead of fighting the thought, you acknowledge that it exists without giving it authority. You allow it to come and go naturally, just as clouds move across the sky without changing the sky itself. Think about how often fear creates stories. You send a message and someone doesn't reply immediately. The mind starts creating explanations. Maybe they're angry. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe you've ruined the relationship. Hours later, you discover their phone battery died or they were busy at work. The suffering didn't come from reality. It came from believing every thought without examining it. This happens in countless situations. Before an interview, before an exam, before an important conversation, the mind predicts failure long before reality has spoken. Observing your thoughts also helps you recognize repeating patterns. You may notice that your mind often expects the worst whenever something important is about to happen. Or perhaps it constantly compares you with other people. Once you become aware of these patterns, they begin to lose their influence. Habits survive in darkness. Awareness brings them into the light. This doesn't mean your mind will suddenly become silent. Every human mind produces random thoughts. The goal is not to eliminate thinking, but to develop a healthier relationship with it. A peaceful person is not someone who never experiences anxious thoughts. A peaceful person is someone who no longer lets every thought dictate their emotions, decisions, and identity. A practical way to develop this skill is to pause whenever you notice yourself spiraling. Instead of following the thought immediately, take one slow breath and ask yourself, is this a fact or is this only a possibility? Often, you'll realize that your mind has filled in missing information with assumptions. That simple question interrupts the automatic cycle and brings you back to reality. Another helpful practice is paying attention to your surroundings. Notice the sounds around you, the feeling of your feet on the ground, or the rhythm of your breathing. These simple observations anchor your attention in the present instead of allowing it to drift endlessly through imagined futures. Your mind may still produce thoughts, but they become background noise rather than commands you must obey. The more often you practice observing instead of reacting, the stronger this ability becomes. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body through repetition, mental awareness grows through consistent practice. At first, you may only notice your thoughts after several minutes of overthinking. Later, you'll catch them within seconds. Eventually, many thoughts that once consumed your energy will pass through your mind without leaving a lasting mark. Instead of being carried away by every mental story, you become someone who watches with clarity, responds with intention, and protects your peace by remembering that thoughts are visitors, not masters. A large part of overthinking comes from trying to control things that have never been under your control. People spend countless hours worrying about what others think of them, what might happen next week, whether they will succeed years from now, or how someone else will behave. The mind convinces you that if you think long enough, you will eventually find certainty. But certainty is something life rarely offers. The more you chase complete control, the more anxious you become. Think about how much energy is wasted on questions that have no immediate answer. Will people like me? Will this decision work out perfectly? What if I fail? What if everything goes wrong? These questions create endless mental loops because they cannot be answered in the present moment. Your brain keeps searching for information that does not yet exist. Instead of solving problems, it manufactures stress. There is an important difference between concern and control. Concern helps you prepare. Control is the belief that you can determine every outcome. Preparation is healthy because it focuses on actions you can take today. Control becomes exhausting because it demands certainty about tomorrow. You can prepare for an interview by studying, practicing your answers, and arriving on time. You cannot control the interviewer's opinions, unexpected questions, or the final hiring decision. Imagine a farmer planting seeds. The farmer can choose healthy seeds, prepare the soil, water the plants, and remove weeds. These actions are within the farmer's control, but the farmer cannot command the rain to fall, prevent every storm, or decide exactly when every seed will grow. If the farmer spent every day worrying about the weather instead of caring for the field, nothing productive would happen. Life works the same way. Your responsibility is to take care of what belongs to you and let the rest unfold. Many people become trapped in overthinking because they confuse influence with control. You may influence how someone sees you through honesty, kindness, and respect. But you cannot control another person's thoughts, feelings, or decisions. You can influence your career by developing skills and working consistently. You cannot control economic changes, unexpected events, or every opportunity that comes your way. Accepting this distinction removes a tremendous amount of unnecessary pressure. One simple question can interrupt an overthinking cycle. Can I do something about this right now? If the answer is yes, then stop worrying and begin acting. If the answer is no, continuing to think about it will not change the outcome. Worry often disguises itself as productivity, making you feel as though you are solving a problem when you are only repeating the same thoughts from different angles. This mindset also changes the way you respond to mistakes. When something goes wrong, the mind immediately wants to rewrite the past. You replay conversations, imagine better decisions, and wish you had acted differently, but the past is outside your control. The only thing available to you is the lesson you can carry into your next decision. Every minute spent trying to change yesterday is a minute stolen from improving today. Social comparison is another area where people try to control what cannot be controlled. Someone else gets promoted, receives praise, or reaches a milestone before you. The mind begins asking why your journey looks different. You start measuring your progress against someone else's timeline, but their experiences, opportunities, and circumstances are not yours. The only comparison that truly serves your growth is between the person you were yesterday and the person you are becoming today. Focusing on what you can control creates clarity because it narrows your attention. Instead of carrying the weight of the entire future, you ask yourself what the next meaningful action is. Sometimes that action is making a phone call. Sometimes it is reading one chapter, exercising for 30 minutes, finishing one task, or having an honest conversation. Small actions reduce anxiety because they replace uncertainty with movement. This approach does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending difficult situations do not exist. It means directing your energy toward responses instead of reactions. You cannot stop unexpected events from appearing in your life, but you can decide how you meet them. Your attitude, effort, habits, words, and choices remain yours, regardless of external circumstances. Every day presents countless situations that invite worry. Traffic delays, misunderstandings, criticism, financial uncertainty, and unexpected changes are all part of life. If you attempt to control every one of them, your mind will remain in constant tension. But when you consistently separate what belongs to you from what does not, your attention becomes lighter. Instead of chasing perfect certainty, you invest your energy where it has the greatest impact, allowing your actions to become stronger than your fears and your focuses, to remain rooted in what you can truly influence rather than what you can never fully control. Perfection is one of the most convincing illusions the mind can create. It tells you that before you act, everything must be completely ready. Your plan must be flawless. Your skills must be exceptional. Your timing must be perfect, and every possible mistake must be eliminated. At first, this sounds responsible, but in reality, perfection often becomes another form of procrastination. Instead of protecting you from failure, it keeps you from making progress. Many people who overthink are not lazy. They are waiting for certainty. They spend hours researching, comparing options, revising plans, and imagining every possible outcome. They believe that one more day of preparation will finally remove all risk. Yet that moment rarely arrives. The finish line keeps moving because the standard keeps getting higher. What began as careful planning slowly turns into endless delay. Think about how children learn to walk. They do not wait until they are guaranteed success before taking their first step. They fall repeatedly, adjust naturally, and improve through experience. If they demanded perfection before trying, they would never learn to walk at all. Growth has always depended on imperfect action, not perfect preparation. The same principle applies to every meaningful skill. Writers do not begin with perfect books. Musicians do not perform flawlessly the first time they touch an instrument. Athletes do not become champions after a single practice session. Every expert you admire has produced work they would now consider imperfect. Improvement came because they continued, despite their mistakes, not because they avoided them. Overthinking often convinces you that mistakes are evidence of failure. In reality, mistakes are evidence that you are learning. Every error contains information that success alone cannot provide. When you avoid mistakes at all costs, you also avoid the lessons hidden inside them. Progress slows because experience is replaced with endless imagination, perfection also creates unnecessary pressure. Before starting a task, you begin thinking about how others might judge your work. You imagine criticism before anyone has even seen it. You worry that one small error will define your entire ability. These thoughts increase anxiety until the task feels much larger than it really is. Something that should take 30 minutes becomes a burden carried for days or even weeks. Consider someone who wants to start a business. Instead of launching a simple version of their idea, they keep changing the logo, redesigning the website, researching competitors, and waiting for the perfect opportunity. Months pass without a single customer because they are focused on polishing something the world has never seen. Meanwhile, another person starts with limited resources, learns from feedback, improves gradually, and gains valuable experience. The difference is not intelligence. It is the willingness to move before everything feels perfect. The desire for perfection often comes from fear rather than excellence. Fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of disappointing others, fear of discovering that you are not as capable as you hoped. The mind disguises these fears as high standards, making them appear noble. But if your standards prevent action altogether, they stop serving you and begin controlling you. Healthy excellence is different from perfectionism. Excellence encourages you to give your best effort while accepting that improvement is always possible. Perfectionism demands impossible standards and treats every flaw as unacceptable. Excellence celebrates growth. Perfectionism only notices what is missing. One useful way to challenge perfectionism is to ask yourself whether the task truly requires perfection or simply requires completion. Many daily responsibilities do not need to be flawless to be effective. An email can be clear without being perfect. A presentation can be valuable even if you stumble over a few words. A conversation can strengthen a relationship without every sentence being carefully planned. Waiting until everything is ideal often creates more problems than acting with reasonable preparation. Another important realization is that people notice far fewer of your mistakes than you imagine. Most individuals are focused on their own responsibilities, concerns, and goals. The small imperfections that seem enormous in your mind often go completely unnoticed by others. Your inner critic speaks much louder than the outside world. Taking imperfect action builds confidence because confidence is not created by thinking. It is created by experience. Every time you complete a difficult task, speak despite your nervousness, or try something new, you prove to yourself that you are capable of handling uncertainty. That evidence becomes stronger than the fears that once kept you stuck. Progress is rarely dramatic. It happens through consistent improvement over time. A single page written each day becomes a book. A short daily workout builds strength. A small conversation develops communication skills. Tiny actions repeated consistently create remarkable results, while perfect plans without action produce nothing. Whenever you notice yourself endlessly revising, delaying, or waiting for the ideal moment, remind yourself that perfection is not the requirement for growth. The real requirement is movement. Every step teaches something that thinking alone never can. Every attempt brings new information, greater skill, and deeper understanding. The path forward is not built by people who never make mistakes, but by those who are willing to begin before they feel completely ready, allowing each imperfect effort to become the foundation for the next improvement, the next opportunity, and the next version of themselves. The human mind has an incredible ability to travel through time. Within seconds, it can revisit memories from years ago or imagine situations that have not yet happened. This ability helps us learn from experience and prepare for the future. But when it becomes uncontrolled, it also becomes one of the greatest causes of overthinking. Instead of living in the only moment where life is actually happening, we become trapped between regret about the past and anxiety about the future. Most of the stress people carry does not come from what is happening right now. It comes from what they are imagining. Someone sitting comfortably at home can still feel overwhelmed because their mind is replaying an argument from last month or worrying about a meeting next week. Their body is in the present, but their attention is somewhere else. The mind creates emotional reactions to events that are either already finished or have not yet begun. Think about how often you replay conversations in your head. You remember something you said and wish you had chosen different words. You imagine how the conversation could have gone if you had responded differently. Minutes turn into hours as you mentally rewrite an event that cannot be changed. No matter how many times you replay it, the past remains exactly as it is. The only thing changing is your peace of mind. The future creates a different kind of trap. Instead of replaying what happened, the mind begins predicting what might happen. It imagines failure before the challenge even arrives. It creates detailed scenarios filled with uncertainty and fear. Most of these imagined situations never become reality, yet they still produce real stress. Your heart races, your muscles tighten, and your energy disappears because your mind treats imagination as if it were fact. Returning to the present moment is not about ignoring your responsibilities or pretending the future does not matter. It is about recognizing that every meaningful action can only happen now. You cannot make yesterday better, and you cannot solve tomorrow before it arrives. The only place where you can think clearly, make decisions, and take action is this moment. Imagine driving a car while constantly staring into the rearview mirror. You would miss the road ahead and increase your chances of making a mistake. The rearview mirror has a purpose, but it is not meant to be your primary focus. The same is true with your memories. Looking back occasionally helps you learn, but living there prevents you from moving forward. Many people believe that staying in the present requires clearing the mind completely. That is not necessary. Thoughts will continue to appear because that is what the mind naturally does. The goal is not to stop thinking, but to stop being carried away by every thought. When you notice your attention drifting into endless mental stories, gently bring it back to what is actually happening around you. One of the simplest ways to do this is by paying attention to your senses. Notice the sound of the wind, the feeling of your feet touching the ground, the temperature of the air, or the rhythm of your breathing. These observations remind your brain that life is unfolding here, not inside imagined scenarios. They interrupt the cycle of overthinking without requiring you to fight your thoughts. Daily activities also become opportunities to practice presence. When eating, simply taste the food instead of scrolling through your phone or planning tomorrow's schedule. When walking, notice your surroundings instead of replaying old memories. When speaking with someone, truly listen instead of preparing your next response before they finish talking. Small moments of full tension gradually train the mind to remain where life is actually happening. Technology often makes this challenge even greater. Notifications, endless information, and constant comparison pull your attention in dozens of directions every day. Your mind rarely gets a chance to rest because it is always reacting to something new. Creating short periods without unnecessary distractions allows your attention to slow down and become more focused. Even a few quiet minutes can remind you how different life feels when your awareness is not constantly scattered. Another helpful practice is asking yourself a simple question whenever anxiety begins to grow. What is happening right now? Most of the time, you will discover that the current moment is far less threatening than the story your mind has created. Right now, you may simply be sitting in a chair, taking a walk, or drinking a cup of tea. The danger exists only in the future your imagination has constructed. Presence also changes the quality of your relationships. When your attention is fully with the person in front of you, they feel heard and understood. Conversations become deeper because you are no longer distracted by internal noise. You stop missing meaningful moments simply because your mind is occupied somewhere else. Returning to the present is a skill developed through repetition rather than perfection. Some days, your attention will wander many times, and that is completely natural. Every time you notice your mind drifting and gently bring it back without frustration, you strengthen your ability to remain grounded. Over time, the present becomes less of a place you occasionally visit and more of a place where you naturally live, allowing your thoughts to become quieter, your decisions to become clearer, your emotions to become steadier, and your attention to remain anchored in the reality that is unfolding in front of you, instead of the endless stories created by the mind. One of the greatest lies that overthinking tells you is that you need to feel completely confident before you take action. It convinces you that the fear must disappear first, that the uncertainty must be resolved, and that motivation must arrive before you can begin. As a result, days, weeks, or even years pass while you wait for a feeling that rarely comes. The truth is that confidence is not something you collect before action. It is something you build because of action. Think about every important moment in your life. Before your first job interview, your first presentation, your first difficult conversation, or your first major decision, there was probably some level of fear. You did not know exactly how things would unfold. Yet once you stepped forward and completed the experience, you became more capable than you were before. The action itself changed you. If you had continued waiting until you felt completely ready, that growth would never have happened. Overthinking creates the illusion that thinking is progress. You tell yourself that you are being careful, responsible, or strategic. While planning has value, there comes a point where additional thinking no longer improves your decision. Instead, it becomes a substitute for action. You begin analyzing every possibility, searching for perfect answers, and trying to eliminate every risk. Meanwhile, nothing in your actual life changes because your energy remains trapped inside your mind. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool. You can spend hours reading about swimming techniques, watching videos, and studying breathing methods. You may understand every theory perfectly, but until you enter the water, you will never truly learn to swim. Knowledge prepares you, but experience transforms you. The same principle applies to almost every challenge in life. Action has a unique power because it replaces imagination with evidence. Before making an important phone call, your mind may predict rejection, embarrassment, or failure. Once you make the call, reality replaces imagination. Perhaps the conversation goes better than expected. Even if it doesn't, you now have real experience instead of endless assumptions. Reality often proves to be far less frightening than the stories created by your mind. Many successful people are misunderstood because others assume they never experience fear. In reality, they often feel the same uncertainty as everyone else. The difference is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move despite it. Courage is not waiting until fear disappears. Courage is choosing to act while fear is still present. Small actions are especially powerful because they reduce resistance. When a goal feels overwhelming, the mind immediately begins producing excuses and doubts. Instead of focusing on completing the entire project, focus on the smallest possible step. If you want to write a book, begin with one paragraph. If you want to exercise, begin with 10 minutes. If you need to organize your home, start with one drawer. Small actions create momentum, and momentum often becomes stronger than motivation. Every completed action also sends an important message to your brain. It says, I can handle difficult things. Each success, no matter how small, becomes evidence that challenges are manageable. Over time, this evidence weakens the voice of overthinking because your confidence is no longer based on hope alone. It is supported by real experiences. Waiting until you feel ready can become a lifelong habit. There will always be another reason to delay. You may believe you need more money, more knowledge, better timing, or greater confidence. While preparation is valuable, perfection is impossible. At some point, growth requires stepping into uncertainty. Life rewards movement far more often than hesitation. Action also creates clarity. Many people believe clarity comes before action, but in reality, clarity often follows it. You discover what works by trying. You learn what needs improvement by making mistakes. You uncover new opportunities by taking the first step. If you remain still, you limit yourself to theories and predictions. Movement reveals possibilities that thinking alone could never uncover. Another important benefit of action is that it occupies the mind with productive effort. When you are fully engaged in solving a real problem, there is less room for unnecessary worry. Your attention shifts from endless speculation to practical solutions. Instead of asking, what if I fail? You begin asking, what is the next step? This change in focus transforms anxiety into progress. There will never be a moment when every uncertainty disappears. Every worthwhile goal involves some level of risk. Every meaningful decision requires stepping into the unknown. The people who accomplish remarkable things are not those who eliminate uncertainty before beginning. They are the ones who accept uncertainty as part of the journey and continue moving anyway. Whenever you notice yourself trapped in endless thinking, pause for a moment and ask a different question. Instead of asking, am I ready? Ask, what is the smallest action I can take right now? That single question shifts your attention from fear to progress. It reminds you that transformation does not happen through endless analysis, but through consistent movement. One decision at a time, one effort after another, one lesson following the next, allowing each action to build experience, each experience to build confidence, and each step to carry you farther than endless thinking ever could. Overthinking is rarely a problem that can be solved with a single breakthrough. It is usually the result of habits that have been repeated for months or even years. In the same way, freedom from overthinking is built through small daily habits that strengthen your mind over time. Many people search for one perfect technique that will instantly silence every anxious thought, but lasting change comes from consistent mental discipline rather than temporary motivation. Mental discipline is the ability to guide your attention instead of allowing your attention to be controlled by every thought, emotion, or distraction. Without discipline, the mind follows whatever feels most urgent at the moment. One worry leads to another. One negative memory leads to another. Before long, hours have passed, and your energy has been consumed by thoughts that produce no meaningful result. Think of your mind as a garden. If you never care for it, weeds will naturally grow. You do not have to plant them. They appear on their own. Useful plants, however, require attention, patience, and regular care. Your thoughts work in a similar way. Fear, doubt, comparison, and unnecessary worry often arise automatically. Calmness, focus, gratitude, and resilience grow through daily practice. One of the simplest forms of mental discipline is creating a consistent morning routine. The first few minutes after waking often influence the direction of the entire day. If the first thing you do is check social media, emails, or stressful news, your mind immediately becomes reactive. It begins processing other people's opinions, problems, and expectations before you have even connected with yourself. Beginning the day with a few moments of quiet reflection, deep breathing, reading something meaningful, or planning your priorities helps establish a sense of direction instead of confusion. Your environment also shapes your thinking more than you may realize. A cluttered space often creates a cluttered mind. Constant noise makes it harder to think clearly. Endless digital distractions keep your attention scattered. Creating an environment that supports focus makes mental discipline easier because you remove unnecessary obstacles before they become problems. Another important habit is becoming intentional about the information you consume. Every article, video, conversation, and social media post influences your thinking in some way. If your mind is constantly filled with fear, negativity, comparison, or outrage, overthinking becomes much more likely. This does not mean avoiding reality. It means choosing information that educates, inspires, or genuinely helps you grow instead of consuming content simply because it captures your attention. Writing your thoughts down is another powerful practice. Many worries become overwhelming because they remain trapped inside your mind, constantly repeating themselves. When you place them on paper, they often become clearer and less intimidating. You begin separating facts from assumptions. Problems that once seemed enormous may suddenly appear manageable because you can finally see them objectively instead of carrying them around mentally. Physical health also plays an important role in mental discipline. A tired body often creates a tired mind. Poor sleep, lack of movement, and constant exhaustion reduce your ability to think clearly and manage stress effectively. Regular exercise, healthy nutrition, and sufficient rest strengthen not only your body, but also your emotional resilience. A healthy mind is supported by healthy daily habits. Learning to pause before reacting is another essential skill. Throughout the day, situations will test your patience. Someone may criticize you. Plans may change unexpectedly. You may receive disappointing news. Without discipline, the mind reacts immediately, often making the situation worse. With practice, you learn to create a brief pause between the event and your response. That pause may last only a few seconds, but within it lies the freedom to choose wisdom over impulse. Consistency is more valuable than intensity. Many people become highly motivated for a few days. They meditate for an hour, read several books, and promise themselves that everything will change immediately. Then life becomes busy and the habits disappear. Real transformation comes from simple practices repeated every day. 10 minutes of daily reflection is often more powerful than 1 hour practiced only once a month. Mental discipline also means accepting that difficult thoughts will continue to appear. The goal is not to create a mind that never experiences doubt. The goal is to become someone who is no longer controlled by those doubts. Strong minds are not free from challenges. They simply recover more quickly because they have developed habits that keep them grounded. Every day gives you opportunities to strengthen this discipline. Each time you choose focus over distraction, gratitude over complaint, action over hesitation, or patience over impulsive reaction, you reinforce the habits that protect your peace. These small choices may seem insignificant on their own, but they accumulate over time. Just as small daily expenses eventually become large amounts of money, small daily habits eventually shape your character and your way of thinking. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your daily habits. You do not become mentally strong through occasional moments of inspiration. You become mentally strong through repeated choices that align with the person you want to become. Every focused morning, every intentional decision, every moment of awareness, and every disciplined response gradually trains your mind to remain calm in uncertainty, clear in difficulty, steady under pressure, and capable of directing its attention toward what truly matters instead of being pulled endlessly into the cycle of overthinking.